Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about the seven seals. So the first seal in Revelation 6 verse 2, it says, "And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering to conquer. He made promises to the churches that he later broke." Adolf Hitler. His rise to power was in 1933. He had many followers and was one of the best speakers in that era. His party, known as the Nazi Party, held the most seats of any party at that time. That year he started the first concentration camp. He groomed people to follow him, then used his power to become one of the worst dictators in history. Mass killings in Jewish concentration camps. I did not look up the numbers of the deaths, but I know it's many. Then we go to the second seal. 6 years later, in 1939, World War II begins. Revelations chapter 6, verse 4, "And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth so that people would slay one another, and he was given a great sword." Mass number of killings in World War II was anywhere from 35 million to 60 million were killed in that war, just to take down Hitler, for the fall of Hitler. The third seal, Revelation 6, verse 5, "When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, 'Come.' And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand." You know, balance or justice. Housing shortages and food shortages from World War II ending, the world was devastated by this. So not only was World War II ending, but there were mass shortages in food and housing. So all around the world, there was, famine. And then the fourth seal. Oh, I want to talk about this. That was 6 years later. Yeah. 6 years later. So the war lasted for 6 years. So that was 1945. So sorry, I need to clarify. So the third seal was released or opened in 1945. The second seal was opened in 1939, and the first seal was opened in 1933. This is my interpretation of the seals and everything for the tribulations. The book of Revelations, okay? All of the stuff before this 90 years was tribulations. I'm thinking we messed up somewhere, guys. We're the 144,000 witnesses. There's 12,000 that witness each area of those if you go to read the book of Revelations. But on to the fourth seal, 1951, 6 years later, influenza spreads worldwide. And I'm going to talk about this here in just a minute. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him, and was given authority to kill with swords. Famine and pestilence by the wild beast of the earth, killers of man. I'm talking about beasts of the earth were, because of the wars and everything, they were literally known as beasts. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. 1951, influenza epidemic spread from England and Wales, Canada, and the US, being mass, deaths. A locust plague in Persia, February 13th, 1951. June 20th, 1951, hundreds of thousands of North Koreans, both troops and civilians, died from plague diseases. So 1951 was when the fourth seal was opened. I'm not saying there was never plagues before that. I'm saying mass. We're talking about mass things happening. And if you're noticing, it's every 6 years. Fifth seal, 6 years later from that. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witnesses they had borne. Those martyred will ask God how long until he judges the earth. They are told a little while longer and given a white robe and told to rest. Then listen to this, and I believe the sixth seal just happened. I'm not saying, okay, I take that back. Not just happened. It's happened since roughly 1951 to and past that. You know, so I would say probably after the fifth seal. The fifth seal was probably sixth seal was probably open pretty close to the fifth seal. Because if you think about it, there's been 6 major earthquakes since the 1950s that has killed thousands of people. And so the sixth seal says, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked up and behold, there was a great earthquake that as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, which are blood moons. The stars fall from the sky like meteor showers, and the mountains will be moved. So over the years, all these earthquakes that have happened have changed the foundation of the mountains. So you've got to think about all this. Like prophecy from the book of Revelations was based on what John saw, what God gave him in visions. And he explained it in parables so that just the dumbed down men would not understand. But if you go back and read in the book of Revelations, 12,000, every 12,000, which totals to 144,000 total, were witnesses of all this. So if you're feeling like, why in the heck am I in hell? You're not in hell for any other reason but for the fact to be witnesses to this. So I'm going to talk about this. I think not only has it went from tribulations, this is the revelations playing out before us. So either rapture was missed with major deaths occurring over all this time, or we're just witnessing this because we are in incarnation traps. So every time we die, every so often we incarnate to come back in a mission to save humanity. This is what we've been doing for years, long before the 90s. But I'm going to tell you something. The seals, it makes perfect sense because Nostradamus predicted that the Antichrist was Hitler. And that's when the first seal is broken, when the rise of the Antichrist. So if you think about this, you want to call it 90 years of tribulation, 90 years of hell, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely one or the other. And also, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about something. This makes me a little nervous, but I read something the other day when I was doing readings, and I did not post this reading because I did not want backlash from people saying there's no way you can know this. Well, God gives me messages for a reason. And the lost book of John, when you read the Providence hymn, it explains that Jesus has came down to earth like his children many, many times. And I want you to know Jesus had to wake up just like we did. And I want you to know I have confirmation that he is awake. And any day now will be the 7th seal being broken. But I have major confirmation. You can believe me or not. That's solely up to you. But the Son of Man doesn't even know the hour that God will come down and rapture us home, ascend us home. So just know that. But the rule was with this war that was waged many, 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 many years ago with good and evil. So many years ago, you can't even fathom it. The Messiah, not only did he have to be crucified, but he had to wake up to his true self again. for it to be time to go home. And he couldn't do it. The only sins that Jesus says there are is to lie and to hate what you do. That's the only two sins there are. There's no 10 commandments that God has made. There's no, believe me, I'm having heavy conversations with him. Heavy conversations, because I was the one, with my grandpa being a preacher, a Pentecostal preacher for 42 years. I was the one asking him all these kinds of questions when I was a kid. And I wish he was alive to this day so he could tell you I was the questioner. I was the black sheep. I always questioned everything about the belief system. It did not make sense. That Bible did not make sense to me. It contradicted itself in many, many, many ways. So I want you to know, I have confirmation. Jesus is awake. Yeshua is awake. And we are going to be going home very soon. And God said, it's not in days, minutes, or hours. It's now. They are in the heavens preparing right now. But heaven's now and our now is a little different. So just keep that in mind, to keep yourself focused on your spiritual healing. Keep yourself focused.